Get a £5 free bet every week with Offer Club from William Hill. Simply stake a total of £20 or more across the week on pre-match football accumulators with 4 or more selections, and you'll get a £5 free bet on the Friday. Join William Hill Offer Club on mobile or online now.
This is Kuban Cassius for Rifle TV in association with Macklinshire in Marbella. We're back in Rotherham, exactly 5 years to the day. Did you know that?
It's not to the day.
No, but I looked at that video because I searched the video, Welcome to COLDWELL's Gym. It's 2011. I'll tell you who was here. Training. Jerome Wilson, Ryan Rhodes, Curtis Woodhouse, Nav Mansouri.
Good days.
It's all changed now. To be honest, the gym looks exactly the same.
Shut up.
It does. Well, what's different?
Well, for starters, ring's here instead of in middle.
Oh yeah.
The ring was in the middle of the gym.
And these are high quality as well, by the way. They don't come cheap.
That's it.
I know.
Exactly.
New ones.
Cheers. See?
All right, it's all changed
It's
here at
completely
COLDWELL
different.
Gym.
It looks nothing.
You come here once.
Complete. Well, look, if you watched your video, if you watched your own video, like you said, you'd notice.
I just tweeted it. I didn't.
Ah,
may
okay,
have not
so you
watched
didn't
it.
actually watch it then. All right.
Busy times for you.
Yeah.
First of all, we're going to talk about Jamie McDonnell. Now I'm going to have to put this out tomorrow. Because we're going to talk about Jamie McDonnell's fight.
Right, okay.
So let's put this out tomorrow, which is today, really.
Now you're watching it, it's today.
It's today.
But it was yesterday.
In Monaco, against Elise.
Yeah.
Just explain to me, I asked Jamie about the Rashid Warren situation. That's what he said.
There's no two ways. That fight was supposed to be happening a couple of months ago. It didn't happen. We've been hanging about, training. Then the WBA, because it was supposed to happen before the WBA put it out. We said we'd take that fight, and then the WBA put it out. We was waiting on the date. It got put back. Then we thought, right, it's happening now. November 12th, Monaco. That's what we've been training for. Southpaw sparring, getting that in. And then Warren didn't want to come to Monaco November 12th, or Heyman or whoever it is that's made that decision. And so we're now fighting Solis.
There's quite a few names apart from Warren as well being mentioned for the 12th for Jamie.
Myself and Eddie had a good chat about it. We were talking about there was him. There was about 3 names that were in the pot. But I like the fact that Solis dropped Yamanaki a couple of times. A lot of people think that Yamanaki is the number 1 in the division, WBC champion. So you can go in there and drop him a couple of times. You can fight, you know. And he lost some points to him. He's a former world champion. Stylistically, he's a good kid, you know, technically good, quite fast, obviously can bang. So it makes for a good fight, and Jamie wants good fights. Yeah, he wants fights where he's going to get he's never going to get the credit that he deserves. We've kind of accepted that, but he just wants to prove, you know, he wants to prove himself and have good fights, which is why he wanted Warren. He'd fought anybody, you know, but we'll do this and see what happens.
Crazy to think that despite Jamie going out to America, beating Kamida back-to-back
Swept under
twice,
that carpet.
and he wasn't really expected to win either of them
No.
fights. People thought the first one, or was it?
Yeah,
You
and
know,
then
Jamie
for the
got
second one, everyone
decision.
thought Kameda took him lightly, and then he'll do a job on him second time round, and he beat him easy at second time round. It's unfortunate, you know, some fighters just don't seem to get the credit that they deserve, and 100% Jamie McDonnell's one of those. But whereas before he was all about just the money, I'm not bothered. He's come around to my way of thinking now, where you know, prove that you're the best. You know, go out there and make sure that you look the business, you look the best, and start, you know, getting some respect. You know, I think he deserves some respect, as well as the money. You know, don't get me wrong. It's about the biggest pay that's out there for him. But rather than being a fighter that wants the biggest pay but don't want the biggest challenge, and he wants them for easier fights, he wants the biggest pay, and he's willing to take on the toughest fights. You know, we're planning on touch wood, everything goes right, beat Solis, see whatever else is the biggest fight out there at bantamweight. If not, we step up to super bantamweight, nick all the title at super bantamweight, and then featherweight.
But if he is to stay at bantamweight, then the Warren fight is inevitable for some point next year.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit pissed off about it when Eddie said that we've got a problem with the Warren fight because they don't want to do it. Blah blah. Blah. He needs to be stripped, and we got in touch with the WBA and said, you know, what's happening. Eddie showed me the email. He got in touch with WBA and said, look, you know, we've been waiting to fight. They don't want it. They're on about it being in January. We don't want to be waiting around till January. You know, we want a voluntary against somebody else. So that's why the WBA granted us a voluntary. So, you know, thankfully we've got that. The problem is that, you know, James has been this WBA champion. He's been an IBF champion in the past. Against Kameda, he was supposed to have had a unification. He got stripped the day before that fight was supposed to have happened. WBO. So really, you know, he's been collecting belts but not getting recognition. You know, so he just wants to fight. He needs to be active and fight. That's all we want to do.
Moving on to David Price, collected his second round win in Germany over the weekend. A little bit of criticism David's got for the opponent, etc. But the idea.
It was 2 days' notice.
Yeah.
It's 2 days' notice. We wanted that. We wanted to be on that bill from day one. As soon as we found out that was going to be happening, it was supposed to be on bill, and then whatever happened, it wasn't on the bill. And then 2 days. It was Thursday when we got told, yeah, you're on the bill. I was like, all right, cool. Going to Germany. At 2 days' notice, there ain't a lot of fighters that are going to get out there and fight something like Pricey at 2 days' notice. You know, the only name that the Sauerlands gave me was Gospic. He was the guy that I turned down for his first fight, so I weren't wanting that fight. She's already did him in 3, but it's not the fact they did him in 3. He's short and he's like massively, grotesquely fat, so it looked even worse than what the other guy did. What you got to remember is, apart from, you know, your higher rated heavyweights out there, most heavyweight boxers are fat. They are. You know, they just eat, and they just, because they ain't got weight to be bothered about. They're just fat. If they're not, you know, if they're not got great ambition to be a champion, most of them are fat. You know, so when it's not a meaningful fight, when it's just a tick over fight or a fight to get, you know, keep busy, then odds are the guy that's going to be in the other corner is going to be fat. I'm sure, you know, AJ has fought fat people. I'm sure Dylan and all the other good heavyweights that are out there right now are fought fat guys. You know, it's just that Price happens to be 6'9" and in good nick at just under 20 stone, so it kind of looks bad.
Okay, but
it did the job. It did what I needed him to do. You know, I said to him beforehand, I don't need to just go out there and blast a guy out with a big right hand that everybody knows what you've got. You know, do what we've been working on in the gym. I want a little bit of difference in there. You know. And the 2 fights on the trot now, he's done somebody with right uppercut. Before, he wasn't a big right uppercut man, you know, and he's finding the right uppercut now. He's working the body. He did the kid with body shots. You know, he's getting there. The first round was a little bit tight because he's not fought for about 4 or 5 months again. And the whole thing about Pricey and the mental side of him is getting him in the ring and being active, and so he's used to being in that ring again, that situation. Don't forget, the last time he boxed in Germany, what happened? He fought Tepper. So the worst place for him mentally to be in. He's gone out there and he's took those demons on. It doesn't matter who you're fighting. You know, the last time he was in a ring in Germany, he got knocked out, and his life basically just, you know, his boxing life basically just went to pieces. So there was a lot of issues there that he had to deal with mentally. So it was a little bit tight in the first round, but he relaxed up. You know, he worked the jab to the chest, which is what we've been working on, and he did a lot of things there that we've been working on. From the outside looking in, you just look at it as, oh, what's the point in that fight? But I'm not looking at it as that. We all know that Price is a job where you've got to build him up here as well as physically, and that's another box ticked where he's in a fight and he's doing things that we're working in the gym. You know, if I'd just gone out there and knocked him out with a big straight right hand, I wouldn't have been happy. Oh, you know, then there is a pointless exercise. But I got things out of that. Pricey got things out of that. So was it worth doing? Well, yes, it was. You know, that guy's been in with. If he's good enough to be in with people like Pulev, you know, then he was good enough to be in with us at 2 days' notice, and that's what we got.
What kind of fight do you consider David needs to have to launch him into a fight with Joshua?
Well, let's put it this way: if Eddie turned around and said, "I can't get an opponent," Pulev don't want it, Vladimir's not having it, Parker's not having it, who can I get? Price is in training, he's ready to go. Price will take that fight. So he would step into a world title fight. If he said to if the Parker fight came back available and they said, "Do you want to fight Parker?" Yeah, we'll take that fight. But if they don't just drop into your lap, then ideally for me, is I just want him active. I want another fight quickly now, because like I said, there was 4 months gap between the last one. Just another little fight quickly again for him, just to be comfortable in the ring and just to get back in there, and then start stepping up, you know. And that's I just want him active. That's the main thing for me. And yes, step up as we go along. You know, it's a case of there's a lot of potential with David Price, a lot of potential. You know, the things that he's doing in here in this ring is improving. It really is improving. There's a lot more. He's got a lot more weapons to his arsenal than what he did before. Because he's more he's relaxed in here, despite sparring people that have always given him trouble in the past. They're finding that it's a lot different story now when sparring with him. But sparring, so I need him to take that into the ring on fight night. And you can't try new things going straight in a life and death sort of fight. You need these little fights where you're taking things on board, trying out new things, and then getting comfortable. And he ticked a big box the other night because he did new things that he's not done. He did the things we've been working on here in the fight. So the next stage then is wearing against somebody that's a little bit more competitive, and then you take off the L plate, so to speak.
What does a potential fight with Dave Allen do for David Price's career?
Without being disrespectful to Dave Allen, right? Dave Allen's fought 3 times on Sky. 3. After every fight he's had on Sky, people are ripping him because it's been crap. It's been crap to watch, right? Now, if at the end of the day, if he's not being great and it's not coming off any good wins or anything like that, he's just another fight for him. There's a lot of pressure on Price going into a fight where he's expected to do this, expected to do that, but he's against a young, hungry fighter that looks at Price and thinks, if I beat him, I've launched myself right up there. So he's going to raise his game fully, and he's got absolutely nothing to lose. Price has got everything to lose. There's a lot of pressure on him for a crap fight that's not going to do anything for him. You know, how is that going to take him any further to a world title shot? It's not.
Why take the fight then?
Eh?
Why take the fight?
Why take the fight?
Yeah, why?
What do you mean why take
If he's not going to do anything for his career, in your perspective.
Because if that's a fight that we have to take, then we'll take it. He's not running from Dave Allen. But what I'm saying is, it's not a fight that does anything for him. You know, if he beats him, he's supposed to beat him. You know, people just say, "Oh, Dave Allen's only a young heavyweight. He's not. You know, he's not really done anything yet." You know, Price is supposed to beat him. You know, but it's an high pressure fight for no reward. You know, but it's like with Dylan with that fight. What great credit has Dylan got for winning that fight? Dylan had that same sort of thing, but now he's been beaten by Dylan. Then, if he'd have beaten Dylan, then that's different. Then it's like, oh, right, that's a proper dangerous fight. This, blah blah blah. It's just another. It's an high pressure fight for no reason. And when you're trying to build a fight, it's no secret. We're building Price up here, you know. So why does he need an high pressure fight for no reward? A Joshua or a Parker is an high pressure fight, but the reward on it is massive. If he beats Parker, he's number 1 for Joshua. If he fights Joshua because Eddie can't get him anybody else, then it's, you know, he's got that pot of gold. But the rewards are massive, so you don't mind the pressure there. But so if them fights aren't there, then I'm happy for whatever MGM and Salomon say, this is what we need to do, blah blah. We're happy with it. But for me, if we can't get the big fights, then I just want a couple of fights, just get him active. But it's almost like, I said this to him, it's not about chasing where he was before. It's basically a new career. It's a new sort of fighter we're building here. And when you have new fighters, and they're given a certain amount of fights just to settle in and to bed into things, and that's ideally, in my ideal world, Price should have a couple of little fights just to get comfortable with me, comfortable with what he's doing here, practicing under fight conditions, under lights. People don't understand, unless you've been punched in the face in an arena, you don't understand how different that is to being punched in the face in sparring. There's no pressure here in a gym. There's a lot of pressure when you go out to fight. The whole changing rooms, the ring walk, the introductions, the bell goes, round one, off you go. It's completely different. And, like I said, I'm spending time with Price in building him. And that's whatever we have to do to get to where we want to be, that's what we'll do.
I quite like the Alan Price fight.
You would do, because Alan chats. So you get
No,
higher
the
views.
fight, not the build-up. The build-up will be is what it is, but I don't know.
Listen, do you understand that Dave Allen's a good fighter? He's a good fighter. He's a good young kid, and I think if he was brought through right, I think he's a kid that can do something in the future. But make no mistakes about it. If that fight happens, Price is going to knock him out. There's a big difference between being it and being able to take shots. No disrespect to Dylan, because Dylan can bang a bit. But there's a different level of power punching between the guys that Dave Allen's fought and getting it on chin with little 10-ounce Grant gloves by David Price. I'm telling you, there's a big difference. And no disrespect to any of them, but people think that all they've got to do is to walk in and just swing a shot over Dave Allen. I've heard him say, I'm just going to get on top of him and just swing over top. He's 6'9", and he's now starting to use his left hand to stop people from getting to him. Dave Allen's not going to get to him. He's certainly not going to get to him before Price gets to him. And I wouldn't. I like Dave, and I won't want that fight for him. But I don't. There's no value in it for Price. But if it has to happen, it has to happen. But I don't see why it has to happen. He's basically talked himself into a fight just through Twitter and just through his interviews. He moans going on about saying, "Oh, last minute this, last minute that." When he did an interview saying he'd been accepted terms and all stuff like that for the fight, we'd not known about it. Nobody told me. Nobody told Price. So we didn't know anything about it. So and I said that to Dave. We messaged and could I get on with him? And I said that to him. I said, "Sorry, mate." I said, "We don't know all about it. I'm just letting you know." So it's just people just on Twitter and because he wants to chat this, give him a fight. Here you go. Eddie's not Price's manager or promoter. So MGM and Salons make decisions and Price make decisions on who he's going to fight. Not Eddie. That's how it is. And we all come together for, if he's boxing on their shows, we all come together and make a decision on certain fights. But it has to work for everybody. And like I said, Dave's on about last minute this. He's a professional fighter. We took a fight at 2 days' notice. We didn't know, as far as we were concerned, we thought we were boxing October 15th. First it was October 1st, then it was October 15th. So we're training for October 15th. We have view for a big fight on November 26th. And then we've got, we can get you on October 1st, 2 days notice. Yeah, we're in gym, we're training, right, there you go, we'll fight. So if you think you're going to beat him, and if you think you're ready, you're fit and strong, you're a professional boxer, you should be training all the time. He's been training, he's been sparring with Dylan down in London, hasn't he? But he's just moaning about, last minute this, last minute that. You're a professional fighter. If you're not a promoter, he says that he's not promoted by Eddie, I don't know what his circumstances are. If you ain't got a promoter and you are a professional fighter, you need to be in gym all the time training, just because you might get that phone call that says, do you want to fight him on such and such a day? Not just Price, anybody. But Jamie McDonald's not had a date for God knows how long. He's world champion, he's been at gym all the time. Not killing himself, but we're in gym. Ready, right, we've got a fight, X amount of weeks. Alright, no problem. Price said 2 days notice. All right, no problem. It's boxing. Shit happens.
Tony Bellew makes his first defence of his WBC crown against BJ Flores. Tony says that BJ Flores just talked himself into this fight.
He kind of has, hasn't he? He's been chatting shit for 2 years. Before Bellew were even before he were a cruiserweight, before he were even a world champion. I think it's because they know that, because of Bellew's mouth. I think they know that Bellew's a good payday in division, so he's been chasing a good payday for the last couple of years. Twitter going on and on and on and stuff like that. And then as soon as it come round, all right, here you go. And then he's gone quiet. I thought, honestly, because I originally wanted Kucha. That's what I wanted. So we saw what he did with Enzo. So that's a good fight. I want Kucha. But Kucha wanted silly money, so that weren't happening. And then when Eddie said BJ, I was like, but then he said, obviously, it'll be a good build up. It'll be fun, and it'll be interesting. And I thought, well, it'll get into him as well. That'd be good. Quite an interesting first defence. And BJ's just disappeared and gone quiet on his Twitter, and then it's just been dead nice and dead quiet. And I'm like, pretty disappointment really. But for 2 years, he's probably run out of things to say, to be honest. Because for 2 years he's chat that much shit about the fight. Now he's got it. Now he's going to see what it's all about. It's a tricky fight. Don't get me wrong. It's a banana skinner fight, because the first fight after you've achieved your dreams and all your worldly goals and everything, and you box at Goodison and you've got that green and gold belt. Potentially, that's a fight that you can slip up on, because you can mentally not be switched on. But because he's got this burning desire to shut BJ's mouth, and because when he walks through the doors of this gym, he's just another fighter. He's not a WBC champion. When we train, we forget. While we're in here, we forget that Bellew's a WBC world champion, Jay McDonald's a WBA world champion, and Gav McDonald's a WBC number 2 and WBC silver champion. We don't think about what they've got. We think about what they need to get in future and what they're after in future. And so when they're on outside at doors, yeah, they get all trappings and all, all products of being a champ. But in here, we don't. And there's no difference in commitment and in attitude and training intensities as what there would be before he beat McCarbo. So he's prepared, and he's ready to go. It's this last bit now, as you're coming into the last couple of weeks, any fight will tell you, they're the shitty weeks, because they want to get to the end goal now. They want to fight. They want to get to fight night. But they've still got a couple. They've still got another hard week left, and then there's the taper week, and it's just time, and it's just things like this. The great media days and stuff like that. But fighters just want to train, go home, and rest, and so it just gets a little bit long for him. But come fight night, then it's happy days, and he'll have a smile on his face, because he'll be going out there ready to punch somebody in the head.
Well, BJ Flores is in the country from the weekend, so we've got an early press conference next week. So
yeah, I'm interested in a press conference. I'd be interested to see how Flores is when he's there. I saw his interview with Michelle Phelps, and he's just, I don't know, it's weird. I've not seen that side to him. He's quite likeable on it. Don't really chat any crap, apart from saying we're going to find out in the first round. I believe he's going to come for it. The way I said it to Tony is that he is in a very similar position to what Bellew was before McCarbo. Somebody with a big mouth that's got their opportunity and has to take it, and it's his last opportunity, because he's had an opportunity before, didn't take it. Now he has to deliver, or it's goodbye. So we have to be wary about that, and Bellew has to be on guard and alert with that, because he's in Bellew's position before McCarbo. This is his McCarbo fight. If he doesn't give it everything, he's got to go back to his commentating and know that when he's criticising other fighters, then he's fall short. But I believe that BJ will give it everything because it's his last opportunity, and because he's got to, because he's a loudmouth American that's coming over here to Britain. You know?
I interviewed Flores 2 years ago about Bellew.
That's what I mean. 2 years. We've been chatting for 2 years.
No, I did, yeah, in Vegas. Yeah.
What was he saying then?
I'd like to watch it back actually, but he was definitely about Tony Bellew.
You don't watch your old videos back then.
There's 12,000 videos on there, Dave.
Oh, so how many views now altogether?
Nearly 150
150
million.
Whoa.
Million. I want to ask you about this situation involving Tyson Fury at the moment, Dave. It's very complicated. It's very
it is.
unclear.
But do you know one thing that stands out for me is yesterday was a bit weird on Twitter because he retired with that tweet and stuff like that, and then said, he was basically taking piss and that. The whole thing is just, I think it's really sad, and not in a patronising way. I genuinely think it's really sad. You've got a guy here who did all the way through his career. We've all said he's not going to be world champion. I'll put my hand up. I'm one of them that said he'll not be world champion. I never thought he'd be world champion. I did think he had a chance against Klitschko when the fight got made, but I'm talking about as he was coming through and you were watching him, and he was big and overweight and struggling with certain fighters, and you just think he's not going to do it. But he's proved everybody wrong. He's gone out there and he's beaten the man that was the man for about a decade, and he's never got the credit, and I think it's wrong. He's never had the credit that he deserves. He should have had the credit, but for whatever reason, he hasn't. But also, you've got to look on the other side of the fence and think, well, some of the stuff that he comes out with, he doesn't help himself. So there's an element of people that are going to refuse to want to give him credit, even if he deserves credit. Because our people are, listen, if I don't like you, if you've done good, I'll still put my hand up and say, do you know what, done a good job there. But there's a lot of people that, if they don't like somebody, won't give somebody credit. I'll still pick holes and everything like that. And I think because of how he's been, and listen, let's not beat around the bush. Because he's a traveller, I'll say it. There seems to be a lot of thing where people don't want to say that. But unless you're a Fury fan, I'm not saying I'm a Fury fan. I'm a fan of what he's achieved by becoming heavyweight champion. I'm not necessarily a fan, but I'll say it how it is. Because he's a traveller, in my opinion, he's just not been given credit, and it's kind of like being devalued as a world champion. But also, you've got to say, because of his personality, because he's very volatile, so people are perhaps not wanting to have him here and have him there. And down to his promotion and stuff like that, he should be out there. He should be on, he should have adverts on billboards and stuff like that, heavyweight champion at world and things. But what a combination of factors has probably led to the fact that he's not given the credit. But I think because of that, and because of the fact that there's some of the stuff that he puts on Twitter, kind of strikes me that he kind of needs to get a reaction out of people. So I think half the time he's playing games with people and just I've laughed. And he's sat at home while everybody's going off on Twitter. He's probably sat at home taking piss out of everybody and having a good laugh and a giggle. But I think ultimately, because of how he strived to get respect and he's not got it, I think he has got problems mentally. I think he's got problems. Now he's failed a drugs test by the sounds of it for coke. I don't touch drugs. I'm not a fan of drugs, and I don't get, I understand people take them. Listen, the problem is the amount of people that are slating him for that. The majority of people are taking it for the simple reason that loads of people are doing it now, and people that you don't think are doing it now. But it don't mean that it's right. If you're in camp for a fight, then I don't believe you should be doing anything like that. I don't think you should be doing it anyway, but especially just if you do that sort of thing, that's your business. It's not my business. It's nobody's business apart from their own. As long as you're not going out hurting people, do what you do. Right? If it starts to the point where you're robbing people so you can pay for your habit, then that's a problem. But I don't agree with drugs. I would hate that any kids that I know grew up to start taking drugs. I think it's bad. I think it's bad for you, and I think it only leads to one way. and nothing positive. But the fact is, a lot of people do it, and I'm nobody to say don't do it. You shouldn't be doing it. It's nothing to do with me. Do what you want, you know. But the fact is, on a professional level, he's world heavyweight champion. If he's in training camp for a fight and he's doing it, then that's unprofessional. And at the end of the day, you make that choice whether you want to do it or not. You know, nobody's forced you. So if you want to take that drug, that's your problem. If you get caught with it, you have to deal with it. You know. I don't agree with his tweet that he put out where it was that picture. I think that in one respect it's funny, but in another you think, Jesus man, everybody's on your back. You're just inviting people to give you more crap.
But isn't that a Tyson Fury-esque response?
And that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. That's where the thing for me is obviously he's not in a. I don't know the man, so I don't know. So it's very difficult to have an accurate assessment of it. But what I'm saying is, going through how things have been unravelling for him, I would say he's not happy. I'd say that the fact that he's not been getting the respect and things that he deserves for his achievement would piss you off. You know, if you was number one, if you was the best man, and you'd achieved a life's ambition of being number one, you beat the man that was number one for a decade, and nobody gave you credit, and nobody's, you know, not kissing your ass, but nobody's just, you know, acknowledging you as such, people that matter, then that'd piss you off, and that, you know, and if you're not that strong in your head, then that could put you into depression. And if you're in depression, then you might go and start taking drugs, because people do that, you know. And not everybody just takes it because they think it's a good crack. Some people start, you know, it's like people eat and get fat because they're depressed. People turn to alcohol and become alcoholics because they're depressed, you know. So I assume then people would take drugs because they're depressed, and they think it's a way of, you know, getting out of that depression. So if he's got issues, then for me, I think the most important thing that he could do right now is seek help. But one of the things that he can do himself is, I would get off of Twitter. Get off of Twitter, because then you don't know what people's opinions are of you. If people slagging you off and stuff affects you and helps to make you a bit depressed or a bit moody or a bit upset, then if you don't know what people are saying about you, it doesn't hurt you. You know, so maybe that's something that he could do. But I'm no expert, and it's nothing to do with me. I don't know him, but I am, as a boxer, as somebody in boxing, you've got to be worried about him, because you know, over the last few years, there has been cases of fighters that would find out when it's too late that they've been depressed and things like that, and they just needed somebody to help them out, and, you know, the worst has happened. You know, listen, I'm not saying it is, I'm not being dramatic or whatever, but it's showing all signs of a man that's not happy. And the most important thing that he can do, whether it's away from boxing, whether it's in boxing or whatever, is find what makes him happy. And I think that's, you know, it's people around it. I saw Billy Joe Saunders saying about him. I spoke to him, and he knows that he's, you know, he's in a bad way and things like that. So if people around him and Peter Fury and that are saying that, you know, he's not an happy man, then it's a serious issue. It's not something that people should be taking piss out on Twitter. Yes, he does things on Twitter that kind of invite that, but is that because he's unstable? I don't know. I think I've only ever said hello to him once in my life, so I don't know the man. But what I would say is, because he's in boxing and because he's you know, we're all in this together at the end of the day, you know, he needs to get himself sorted out. I think that's the most important issue.
All right, Dave Caldwell, listen, thank you very much for talking to iFL TV. I think we've done a solid half an hour today, David.
Wow. That's a long time.
We'll definitely catch up with you next week, ahead of Flores and Bellew fight week.
Thanks for coming to me, Jim.
That's all right.
It's been a while, nice, you know.
You're back in 2021. Imagine how many champions you'll have in 2021.
I'll just be happy to be here.
Yeah, you might be anywhere. You might, don't know. You might have moved.
Might have.
Dave Caldwell, thanks. Talking to iFL TV, and
Cheers.
we'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.